What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Real Estate Uncensored. We've got a killer guest with us today. We're talking a little bit about the future of real estate. We're talking about platforms. We're talking about commission rates. We're talking about team expansion, if you're familiar with any of that. So if you want a big picture discussion about what's going on and what's going to happen over the next 5 years that is really going to affect your daily life in real estate, whether you're an agent, a team leader, or a broker, this is the conversation for you. So Adam Hergenrother is with us. It's his repeat appearance on the show. We're going to get into some fun stuff. We've got Greg McDaniel, the Junior Grandmaster, is here. Co-pilot seat. We've got the evil bald ninja who only has about 20 minutes with us today. So we're going to milk him for all that he's worth before he abandons us. So let's jump in. So first of all, Greg McDaniel, the Junior Grandmaster, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic, man. We are doing a lot of shows today. Content has been phenomenal. Adam's going to drop hammer on us today and just really bring people in and show them how to do the business. And you and I are going to milk Gene like a cow with his nipples so we can get all of his out of him before he has to leave. So, Gene, prepare for the lovemaking. It's going to be fantastic.
Jesus, I've never been more uncomfortable in my life.
No.
Holy Kalita.
Good Lord. All right.
Brings it up into these guys, it is what it is.
Thanks for that,
Just
Greg.
go
All
with
right, so Adam, before we jump in, let's because you're talking with Greg, who's a ski bum. So tell him what you were doing this morning at your mountain place.
Yeah, so I think you'll appreciate it. So I got up. I usually get up around 4:30, and I usually skins down. If you're a skinner, are you familiar with skinning?
I am not, but I would love to learn.
Yeah, so skinning is basically you take, it's called alpine touring, and basically you take a ski and you take an adhesive. So back in the day, they used to use like deer skin to get a ground to like hunt and forage, which is actually an important part of it. Now we do it for fun. And it's adhesive. It goes on the top of the ski, comes all the way down and straps on there. And you take your binding, it's called an AT binding, and you turn it around so it acts as if it's a cross-country ski. And so you basically go out backcountry. You can go up. A lot of resorts now have access uphill. Like, so for instance, Stowe, Vermont will have like an uphill from 4:30 to midnight. And then from midnight to 7:30, there's a different trail. And, you can use headlamps. You can do it at night. You can go in the backcountry. So this morning I got up anyways and was out in the woods by 6 a.m. It was dark. It's wonderful. You don't see anybody. Did a 6.5 mile trek, about 3,000 vert. And you're out there with nobody. It's, waist deep powder, incredible workout. And you carve your own lines. You don't see anybody. It's just an amazing, I kind of try to repeat this process every Friday morning. Actually, Thursday nights, I was telling Matt, I come down to my Stowe house after work, and my wife's so amazing. She kind of gives me that night to kind of just hang and be. And I usually do a night skin. And then Friday morning, I try to get up and do like a 2 or 3 hour kind of skin in the morning. And that's how I start my day.
Some serious cardio. That's what that sounds like.
So I've only done that kind of skiing in Switzerland when I was in the Alps, and we went off book and we went down and did fresh POW runs, and it was insane. Everyone's like, "Oh, I'm so afraid of avalanches." I'm like, "Bitch, please. I mean, let's go." And so we dropped in hard, put the headphones in, and just started rocking out. And dude, cutting your own lines when you're rolling down a mountain like that is literally epic. It's something you cannot explain to somebody who's never done it. Matt, have you ever ventured out of your house? I know you pee in bottles.
I haven't ever ventured out of my house. I'm an agoraphobe, and I'm perfectly content. I was gonna say, I live in San Diego. I'm goes to the beach and not in the water because I'd rather sit in a cafe and read a book about business and sip my coffee. That's the guy that I am. All right, so Adam, just for time's sake, give people kind of the 60-second overview, who you are, where you are, what you do, and then we'll jump into the team stuff.
Oh, geez, I always hate this. I got real estate in 2006. Probably the good but worst time to get into it, I guess, if you realize that, because if you can figure out a way to do real estate from 2006 to 2011, then you're pretty good shape.
Yeah.
I started off, and back then there wasn't really teams. I just inherently I'm lazy, Matt, and so what I mean by that is there's something else that somebody else can do, then I just always try to find a way for them to do it. Even growing up, I used to do it for my mom or my friends or whatever it was. So I kind of approached real estate the same way. And I bought my first investment property when I was a junior in college. And then what happened was actually how I got in real estate. I went to go sell it in 2005, late 2005, and I paid my first commission. And I wrote the check out, and I go, whoa! I was like, I paid like 50 grand, and I wrote a check out for like $26,000, and I was like, oh wait, what? Like that? I was making $32,000 or $40,000 a year at the time, and I'm like, I can go sell 2 houses and be like this, right? Of course, like that attitude. And so I ended up I quit my job, and everyone thought I was crazy. They just, you know what it was though, Matt, I know you appreciate this, real estate. I love real estate. This gave me the avenue for nobody to ever put a ceiling on me or nobody ever to put my thinking in a box. And it just happened to be real estate that I jumped into because of the events that unfolded that way for me. So anyways, I jumped into that, and then I started building a team right off the bat. And what I mean by that is I hired like 6 different assistants in the first like 6 months because I had no idea what I was trying to hire. I had no idea how to hire anybody. So I kind of went through that whole little process with it, and then ended up doing. I remember the first 30 days I was in real estate, 2006, I put 3 homes under contract. I didn't have an office. I was working out of a 400 square foot apartment. Nobody trained me on anything. And I borrowed $8 grand to start my first business. And I walk into the first team meeting, and they go, hey, they were looking at me funny. They're like, how'd you get your name on the board? Because back then, like the team meetings, they put your name on the board, how many deals you did. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, how'd you do 3 in your first month? And I was like, well, is that wrong? Is that really low? And they're like, no, people just don't do that. I'm like, well, I remember thinking, like, what do people do then? Like, what do you
The answer is not much.
Exactly. And I was like, that was my kind of first 30 days in real estate. And then I just kind of put my head down, and I think the first year we ended up doing like 54. My wife was working as kind of the admin. My girlfriend at the time started working as admin a little bit. And then we ended up doing like 36 deals that first year. And then every year we started growing, and from there. And, you know, so I became the number 1 agent in the state of Vermont, which isn't bragging by all because we have more cows than we do people. So it's not really bad at all. But you know, I was like, wow, this shouldn't be that difficult, or it should be more difficult to do that. So anyways, we did that. And then I was like, well, I want to own my own brokerage. So I ended up going to a private mastermind with Gary Keller in 2009. And that was my first introduction to Gary and to Keller Williams. And it was the first time that somebody had ever thought like I did. It was very freeing for me, just to kind of, for somebody that was a mentor and who had done so much in real estate, to kind of give you permission to kind of be a business owner in real estate. It's kind of the way I would kind of describe it.
It's a weird thing.
It is. Yeah. It's like this, everyone's like, you got to work hard, like do it yourself. And Gary's like, no, go hire everybody, right? Like just go figure it out and be really good at hiring. And it was just the whole conversation. So I came back and we launched a market center in the state of Vermont. I obviously joined Keller Williams. So we kind of fast forward to today, and we kind of back up and talk about my career as much as we want. I own a bunch of market centers throughout the country. Last year, our sales team did about $1 billion in sales. We did about 3,300 transactions. We maintained about a 25% profit margin during all of that. We did about 26 million in GCI. We're in 33 states. I own a construction company, a solar company, kind of like everyone else does. It gets to that level, you start owning a bunch of other companies, and I own healthcare campuses, this whole other thing. And so I'm going to stop bragging about myself, because really, honestly, if you guys take anything away from this, like as listening to this, is that if Adam can do it, anybody can do this. Because I promise you, I'm not smarter. I'm not any better than anybody. I really come down to this, guys. I really think that business building is about making 3 world-class decisions a day. And because if you go and hang out with billionaires and you hang out with really people that are successful, what you realize, you're hanging out with them, you're going, dude, this person kind of sucks. Like they're not, I don't mean that they suck, but you kind of like have this, you holding them in this echelon that they're so smart or so good. And you hang out with them and you go, man, they're not any different than me. And so what I realize though, what they do though, is they actually just make a 10 to 15% better decision every day that compounds their business over time. And that's really the kind of genesis of building an organization, is about approaching each day to making 3 world-class decisions that are 10% better than your competitor.
That's an interesting way to look at it. I've never heard it phrased like that before at all. And there is totally that thing in real estate. It starts with just the average agent, where if you're not doing all elements of the, you're not really working. It even goes down to, like why would you build a team and then hire out a listing coordinator? Like, why wouldn't you keep on going on the list? yourself. It's like at every level you try to move up, there's a whole bunch of pushback against that mentality. I'm not sure why. It's weird.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Well, I think people aren't trained. I think they think a certain way and they think incrementally instead of really expanding. Because look, you guys are all bright. And as you start to, once you expand your way of thinking, it's really difficult to go back to that level. I think too many people expand their thinking very minimal. Like it's like a 0.5% they grow it instead of actually starting with the end in mind and then getting and surrounding yourself by people who think differently than you. Because look, the only way you build a business different than anybody else is to take a different level of action. I mean, you have to take a different level of action. If you want to lose weight or compete in an Ironman, you've got to take a different level of action than somebody running a 5K or who wants to sell 10 homes a year. So part of it is really understanding that your thinking will lead to a different level of action and your action will lead to a different result. Over time, you compound that. That's how organizations hit their geometric growth.
Yeah, that's incredible. Okay, so let's back up a little bit. And you talked about, just the genesis of starting a team. Basically, you hired a bunch of assistants and had no idea what to give them to do. Let's talk a little bit. You've been, in the business of expansion for 10 years now. What do you feel like is the most valuable thing you've learned, or maybe just the person that you've become these last 10 years? Which has been the most impactful?
Yeah, wonderful question. For me, business is a conduit for my personal growth. So 100%, it's about all of what we do in business is about the journey for me. And then how the more I work on myself, the more I can work on everybody else that's around me. So I first and start off, every day I kind of wake up and just say, hey, what's my orientation? You got to kind of figure out where your orientation is. And for me, it's just that I want to have joy and peace in my life. And therefore, then I want to go out in the world because look, the world's going to be up and down every single moment, every single day. There's going to be things that happen that are challenging, that suck, that are good, all those things. But if you don't have a baseline structure to you, it's going to be very difficult to go out there and deal with life. So for me, I kind of wake up and go, I know life's going to be super hard. It's just going to be out there. It's going to do those things. I'm going to get me okay first. And as soon as I'm okay, I'm going to go play with life. Now, again, it's not like you dismiss it or belittling it, but you first structure you. It's kind of like you first have to be, then do. Most people are still doing instead of being first. And so for me, kind of the most things that I've learned is the more I put into me, meaning the more I work on me, the more I can actually reward other people with what I've learned. Here's a great example of this. Like you need to be selfish. You need to be selfish first, which is a word we don't like to use, as long as it's a good selfish, meaning you're using it to improve yourself. Like the heart, by the way. So the heart is a great example of this. The heart holds all the most rich nutrient oxygen out of the entire body. And so one could say that the heart is very selfish with its use of its oxygen. However, if the heart didn't do that, it wouldn't be able to function the rest of the body, the brain, your arms, your legs, your liver, your pancreas, all those things. So it's the same way when you're building a business or building your life, is that you have to first build you and be selfish to a component so you can then go out there and share that with everybody else. And that includes your hires, that includes your agents, your employees. One thing we can talk about too is I think I wrote this article for Inman recently and it got some traction was I think 2022 is going to be about the year of employees. There's so much great reshuffling going on in real estate, particularly if you're building a team. Most people see employees almost as a secondary to an agent. It's like they put the agent up higher instead of the actual employee. And it's almost like they dismiss the employee a little bit, not in a disrespectful way. It's just they go out there like, we need sales, instead of actually focusing on the employee and what they can do for you. That could be a table that conversation when it comes to a platform. But to answer your question, so for me, what I learned the most is you have to go work on yourself. Tom Brady wakes up, and the reason why he's so successful at what he does is because he works on himself first, and he can bring that level of what he's learned to everybody else around him.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so let's quickly talk about just the platform that you and Gary Keller just partnered up on, because then we want to have just the bigger conversation. So tell us about that first.
Yeah, so we've Universal Properties turned into Hergenrother Realty Group, and then last year I partnered with Gary to create an organization called Livian. Livian is, and people say, where'd you come up with the name? We hired a Fortune 50 kind of marketing firm to kind of really guide this. And Livian is called the empty vessel strategy. It's kind of like Zillow. Oh yeah. Zillow is a combination of pillow and zillion, right? Or zillions. and they kind of come together. So Livian is kind of that, our brand message is love how you live and work for our people. And it's that kind of, we want to bring meaning to it for what it is for Livian. So we partnered up on this platform. And so many people talk about expansion or teams, and I think there's different layers to this. And so we kind of unpack that a little bit, right? There's your traditional team, which could be you as the rainmaker, a couple admin, maybe a couple agents or a showing agent, right? And then there's different sizes of teams. Let's just kind of put that in a category of teams. And then people are expanding, which is like, Matt, you have a team, and then you expand to like a city 15 minutes north of you or south of you. You maybe put an agent in there. And that's kind of like the original iteration of expansion that kind of Gary and Keller Williams brought about in about 2014, 2015. They say, hey, people want an opportunity. Your opportunity is to go expand. And there's about 5,000 people that started off doing that. And it kind of dwindled its way down. And there was a whole bunch of sparks or spokes that kind of happened from expansion itself. People expanded their lead gen platforms. People expanded kind of just with a couple cities over, or people expanded in their geographic territory. Or if you're like me, who lives in Vermont, I had to, in order to expand, I had to move out of the state. So in 2011, I expanded to Maine. And the first call I got when I did that was somebody telling me I was going to jail. That's literally, I'm not even kidding. I remember this. My wife was in the room. It was like 9:30 at night. This person's kept calling me. They're like, they're reading me the riot act for what I'm doing. And then they're going, you're going to jail. You're going to jail for this. I'm like, I'm not going to jail. And I hold the phone. And I look at my wife and I go, am I going to jail?
Exactly. Like, I don't think I'm going in. Am I going
to jail? And so so that was kind of like this big expansion. We called it duplication at the time when I did it, because I just duplicated what I had created in Vermont. And at the time I was out of production. So we kind of duplicated that over. And I remember like 3 months into this, I transferred, I don't know, it was like $16,000 that month from that team into my account. And that's when it was kind of like, this works. Like I don't have my license in Maine. Like it wasn't, it could have been 10, it could have been $5,000. It didn't matter the amount. I was like, I didn't talk to an agent. I didn't talk to another agent. I don't even know what properties are being sold. Like I was like, wow, this is an amazingly freeing feeling. And so then it kind of just, then we started building systems and structures around how do we support this in other states. And then you kind of fast forward to what we call really like I think there's like 3 or so or 4 people in the industry, inside, outside of KW. Place is an example, Side's an example. I think Redfin is that example of it as well too. People say, what's a great example of it? I say, well, Redfin is what we're doing. We're just not all full employees. And essentially it represents Redfin. It's just one massive organization that has a platform. So that's where we think about, I think about expansion at this level is like a platform. And so then people are like, well, what does the platform do? So the platform handles all HR. So we have our full-time HR people. We also provide full-time benefits to our employees. We have 401k matching, 6% matching. We, dental's like $5. We pay 85% of people's healthcare. So there's a whole HR package that comes in it, because most agents can't do that when they have 2 employees or they don't have a system for it. So when you partner with us, your employees automatically get this massive perk, which right now, when there's a great reshuffling of employees, it's really important for retainage and for attracting the right talent to be able to have that type of compensation plan. So then, like financially, we all of a sudden now are responsible for all the expenses and location. So now the person that's running the team doesn't have to worry about keeping reserves in there. They don't have to worry about paying payroll. They can relieve that stress, which is a big stress for people. Is like, do I have enough money in there? Do I save for taxes? How do I pay this? Right. So we're now responsible for all the money that's associated with the team. Then we have a lead receiving system, which we have 2 different dev teams building out right now, which are what we look at as like our lead receiving system. Really, we want agents, 80% of the leads, we want them just to raise their hand. So we want agents to convert, but we want them converting warmed leads. So how do we automate 85% of this process for our agents, in a North American level, right? So how do we do that? So that's our lead receiving system. Then we have our events team that puts on 6 events every single year. We put it on for our team so they don't have to really work through it. We have our operations system, which the reality is most real estate rainmakers, team leaders, owners, whatever you want to refer to them as, they shouldn't be training their operations people. They're not that skilled.
Oh God, no.
No,
they're terrible.
Right? But they do, and that's why they never really advance. So now we have an entire, like I'm the worst person to train like an admin person, an operations person, right? So now we have this whole team that's dedicated to training with specific tactical leadership training for our employees who are doing TC, LM, operations, marketing, and they create their own culture because there's hundreds of them, right? So now they've got their whole this whole kind of culture that they can feel supported, not just from their local Rainmaker, but from everybody. And then there's the training. We do local training. We do obviously remote training. We have boot camps. We've built out this entire platform. So when a team plugs into us, we can say, Matt, come join Livian. And when you join Livian, we're going to plug all that into your system and through our 30, 60, 90-day launch process. And typically what we do is we'll give you a straight up example. So last year, most teams, we like to partner with teams that are doing about $30 million or more. We partner at 30 million. Within 12 to kind of 15 months, we've typically doubled somebody's income. Right off the bat, Matt, when a team comes in, we usually save them about 30% because they're spending money all over the place.
Sure.
Right?
On stuff they're not following. There's no follow-up systems. They're overspending on Zillow. They're doing all kinds of shit. Yeah.
All sorts of stuff that just because they're not bringing that business mindset. So we have our CFO and our controller sit down with them and create a budget based on what we know that works, based on the number of transactions and what they're doing. And then we roll that out to them. So now it's being treated as like a business, right? So that they come in and partner with us. We usually shave off expenses that way so that they don't need to. And then again, we can usually double their income in 12 to 18 months. We also have on the platform side, we have a whole recruiting side that helps them bring on the right agents to the organization as well too. Yeah,
I love it. All right, so let me ask you, because it goes back to something you said earlier about just the mentality in real estate. Old school, you do everything yourself. There was a lot of initial pushback against you expanding. So now that you're on the other side of it and you're giving agents kind of a different opportunity than what the traditional real estate opportunity is, obviously that comes with our expectations. Like, hey, if I'm going to build this platform for you and you don't have to do most of the lead follow-up and you're getting warm leads and all this stuff, like it's changing the expectations. So my question for you is, when you think about the average agent who plugs into a system like that, are you finding better luck when you're bringing people in from outside the industry and just plopping them into the structure right off the bat and this is all they know? Or do you have agents that actually go, hey, I'm used to conventional real estate as it's done, but I would rather plug into a system like that because I'll actually make more money, be happy or whatever. Is there any thoughts on just who you're attracting and who fits into that system better?
Wonderful question. Thanks for asking. So I'll answer at the individual agent and the team level. So when we're partnering with a team, we see, call it that $30 to $50 million range. We see two things. We see somebody, because we do a deep dive into their financials, not like we got you, but like really to help them out, right? So we look at it and we see somebody who is running at a low profit margin, but has really good bones and structure. They just need implementation process and systems, the platform to support them. Yeah. Then the other side, we see people running at like 60% profit margins, but they hate their life. Right? They have no idea how to get out of it. They're running
because they're doing everything.
They're doing everything, and they've got staff, and they're like, how do I get out of this? And I think you said it beautifully, Matt, where this is the first time, or really over the last couple of years, agents at this level have kind of woken up and said, there's another opportunity for me here. I never seen this before. This isn't a brokerage. This is to actually help me be more me. There's nobody better at being you than you. There's nobody better at being Matt than Matt, or Gene being Gene, right? So let's let them be you and let us take care of everything else. And by the way, we're going to make you more money. And by the way, this is the other thing I forgot to mention is we provide exit strategies for our CEOs, which most people build this real estate team all their life and they never have any exit, and they think they're going to sell it at some point. But I did an episode for Real Trends not too long ago about Livian and the kind of partnership with Keller Williams, and the lady from Real Trends who basically said, I just had Swanepoel on here, and they were talking about how all these teams are asking for valuations, and she said, well, does anybody like their valuation? She goes, not one of them. Because we're like 50 grand. Because really there's no value to it. So in our platform, though, we have in our contracts with our CEOs, this is once you get to a certain level of GCI, which isn't hard to get to, we will buy you out and pay you out over a 10-year period of time. And most of those times that number is between $1.5 to $2 million. So now we've created this massive exit strategy and so people know, hey, as soon as I get to $2 million in GCI, I can sell my business back to my company and I can retire. I can do whatever I want. It's just a really good opportunity to be able to do that.
That's incredible.
All that. I just
well, And this is why it kind of leads into the bigger conversation of just why this is the future. And I would tend to agree. I mean, we're talking about commission rates are going down. I mean, Greg, in your area, your commission rate's been down versus the Midwest for a long time. I mean, your average side of a commission is 2.5. That's probably going to drop to 2.2. You know, like there's just constant pressure down. And then you've got the enormous risk that somebody's going to invent the next stage of Zillow and change the consumer experience of real estate. You've got blockchain coming in that might change the back end experience and streamline a lot of that stuff. So it might squeeze out a lot of the commission. So I think the industry needs to like get ready for the fact that we might be better serving the consumer. Agents not be 100% commission traditional salespeople and be employees on a bonus structure, because that may be the only way the economics work years from now, 15 years from now or something. So I think that, yeah, like what you're building is, it's like it's on the cutting edge right now, and it might be the bridge to where you're going, and you guys are already out in front of it, because you could probably switch a lot of your people over once the platform is in place and you know what the numbers are coming in, the leads, the conversion percentage, the profit on the back end. Like, you know, you can hire an agent and pay them 40 grand a year plus bonus. Like, you know exactly where you can add people and bring more sales in. So you could probably switch a lot of that stuff. I don't know if you have like long-term plans, but you probably know exactly which ones you could already switch over to that employee plus bonus model, I'd imagine.
Yeah, that's wonderfully said. I think we always got to plan for the disruption that we can't see. And I think with scale, you can do that. So right now, if you hold your margin, you know, then you bring in ancillary services, which we can talk about in a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think it's also about if you do need to pivot, you can pivot. Like you said, we already have such a platform and so many, you know, our goal, we're launching these, well, it's called Livian Territory Leaders. There's going to be 13 in the US and 3 essentially in Canada to start with. And, you know, their goal is to help recruit and bring people into our organization. And as they do that, we'll be, you know, in probably 3 years, we'll probably be somewhere around 1,500 to 1,700 teams. You know, you're looking at somewhere between 10 and 15,000 agents. And I think we can do as much production as an organization like Reology with 20 to 25,000 agents. And I think that's really the future of where we're going, because we're going to make agents way more productive. And that's how you can actually prevent a commission slide, is by making people more productive through less time, but doing more deals. And you can do it a little bit less, so that if we need to switch to that route, we're already positioned to do so.
Right.
I think.
Yeah. And I know Gene's got to bounce, so we got to let Gene go and pick up his kids from school. We appreciate you being here. I know we didn't get a chance to jump in because you've got a ton of questions and stuff, but go pick up your kids. Be a good dad.
I do. Listen, I want to say to Adam, I'm super intrigued. Like Greg and I are talking behind the scenes. The platform's incredible. The website's awesome. It's funny because the one question I did have to start with was where did Livian come from? And you answered that proactively, right? So my brain is really going. It's a shame I actually can't stay for another half hour, because I think what you're doing is incredible. I'm going to shoot you an email and see if there's any way that I can help you expand that platform. Because we really just did, from a team perspective, we got 20 people on the squad. We brought somebody in to oversee the P&L, and it's amazing to watch how your revenue goes up while you're getting lean and mean, and the profit gets bigger. And most people don't have the time to do it, and most people don't have the mental capacity to understand it. I'm not one of those guys, right? Like, and we call the guy Mikey Mush, and we said he's the bad guy we never knew we needed. But we're going to be running lean and mean. Seriously, but we're going to be running lean and mean, and people are going to be happier long term. So I love what you're doing, dude. I'm gonna connect with you. I thank all you guys. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too, man. All right. Ancillary services real quick. So what are you doing? Where do you think things are going? What do you see coming down the pipe?
Yeah, so one of the reasons why when I was looking at in 2020, when I was looking at options of what I wanted to do with our organization, you know, at that time we were the 3rd largest real estate team in the world. And so we kind of woke up and said, well, what do we want to do, right? Do we want to go raise capital? Do we want to go public, right? What do we want to do? And ultimately, you know, I reached out to Gary and I said, hey, I've been in your world for a while and a bunch of market centers, and we've been kind of doing this, like, do we want to do something together, right? That type of approach. And one of the big benefits that I saw from this was the Livian Financial Services, because Gary has been through him and KWX have been spending hundreds of millions of dollars building out ancillary services like Keller Mortgage, Keller Covered, Keller Offers for agents, and then obviously Keller Title. So one of the really neat things about this is we're going to use their backbone of all of the money that they've spent and their 2,000 plus employees that are over there to launch Livian Financial Services, which become huge benefits for our operators and our partners. So now they're going to be able to get the benefit legally for using a lot of our Livian Financial Services that are happening in there. So working out that structure right now, but we're going to be rolling that out again. As your playpen gets bigger, Matt, you're able to launch a whole bunch of different kind of mechanisms through that to go play. And that's Livian Financial Services, one of those. And it makes it a smoother process for our clients. It makes it an easier process for our agents when they can pick their loan officers. We can pick all of our employees. You know, Livian Financial Services will probably have 300 or 400 people when we're, you know, in 3 to 4 years as we kind of continue to build this out. And again, we may pivot and go, hey, we're gonna protect the commission at 2.5% or 3% or whatever that is, but we're going to give you free mortgage, or we're going to give you free this, or whatever.
Got it.
Like.
Got it. So rather than going to flat fee and then the ancillaries are stacked on top, you cut the cost of the ancillaries, start pouring them into the commission. That makes sense. Like, the consumer, I can see them being on board for that.
And you know, who knows how it does. I actually envision very similar to probably what you guys believe is that at some point, I don't know if that's 4 years or 5 years out, we're going to wake up and a consumer is going to pay one fee. They're going to pay one fee for mortgage. They're going to for title, for escrow, for their attorney if it's an attorney state. They're going to and for selling their home and for probably moving. I think it's coming. And so I think the consumer wakes up and they're going to have one fee that's associated with all of that. Somebody's going to get there, and that's really what we're doing now with our ancillary service. Somebody's going to do it. And that's where we're really aiming to do with our direct to consumer. Livian is that direct to consumer model from Keller Williams, right? Is like, how do we interact directly with a client so we have the best services and we can offer them a one-time solution to be able to give all of this to them. And we want to be the first ones that kind of hit that. Yeah,
I mean, Greg, you and I were just talking about this yesterday. Your dad has been saying that your dad's been in the business for 50 plus years. He's been saying that for probably that long, is that needs to happen, because from the consumer perspective, that's what they want, right?
Well, and I think
100%.
Amazon.
Yeah.
I think Amazon really has opened that up to people giving consumers what they don't know they need. In the fact that when I'm in a grocery store, I won't walk down the aisle because it's easier for me to go to my car and order something on Amazon to save me the 50 steps to walking down the aisle, because I don't want to go back down there and get it. Or like Uber is so nice because you don't have to take your wallet out and pay the person at the end, right? These little things that people use that makes convenience. And I think real estate has been so antiquated for so long, and the construction industry. That can be a whole other, because we run a pretty large construction organization. I think construction is the other industry that is going to get disrupted immensely, because it's ass backwards for a long time. It needs a whole overhaul, and that's coming too. But I think in real estate itself, from the brokerage level, in real estate transactions, that's going to be one fee disrupted, ease of a consumer, one point of contact that kind of facilitates all of that. And for me, I woke up and said, I can't do that as a team. I need to partner with somebody. And that's where really the origination of partnering with somebody is, so we can provide our partners with the right tools to go and succeed at the highest level.
Got it. All right. So for anyone listening, who is the right person who should reach out and connect? And then how do they reach out and connect?
Yeah. You can go to Livian.com. You can read all about our partner stories there, and you can fill out a form to connect with us. Again, we're looking for about that $30 million plus team. If you're an agent, you can certainly join our team, and we can walk you through from what that angle looks like. One of the things in the platform I forgot to mention, Matt, was we have what's called our kind of Livian Impact Coaching, which is our productivity coaching. So when we bring on new agents, the agent can go put right into that program. Instead of the local rainmaker having to train that agent, we can put them into a program that gets them directly into production. That all that team does is work with new agents and ramping them up into production. Within 45 days from new agents, we have 82% of people writing a contract. So so how we put them in this program so we can accelerate the agent. And again, now that the team that has partnered with us can bring on 3 or 4 agents without having to worry about training with them, without having to lose their time, because they can put them directly into our program. Again, the platform that then supports that agent to get directly into production. Then we have legacy training, and we have 3 tiers of training for that as well for other people, and the CEO Leadership Academy that we have as well. But yeah, so $30 million plus teams, who's really looking that, hey, you know what? I love what I do. I just don't love all the things that I'm doing. In fact, we get a lot of people who are like, I'm making good money, but I'd rather just go take a job right now. because there's so much pressure on people. And like, I know you guys can probably handle it. There's a lot of people. So this is pretty interesting. In 2020, 53% of people that left Keller Williams, and I'm just picking on Keller Williams, but people leave every company all the time, right?
Yeah.
53% of people that left Keller Williams went to a dependent model. So basically what the dependent model is, meaning that like they went to a model that basically said, I'm going to 50-50 split with a traditional organization.
Oh, they took less independence. Got it.
Yeah, and then
lower splits.
On top of that, lower split, and
Yeah.
why they did that? You think about there's 1.6 million realtors right now, which is the highest number it's been. By the way, the last time we had a number like that was 2006.
Yeah, it was not a good sign.
It's not a good sign at all. It's not. It's not a good sign. But and so anyways, when what was I just saying?
So half of the people that left KW went to dependent structures. Yeah.
Yeah, so they went to them. So agents that are thinking about going to a dependent, instead of going to a dependent model, we can make you a lot more money on a dependent structure because we have the platform that's way more purposeful, way more supportive than just than a traditional company or brokerage that's going to give you some leads and some marketing. We're going to do way more than that.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that's incredible. And just from a marketing perspective, what you're doing is designing a whole new category. Like you've stepped in and a platform is between a brokerage and between a team. Like it's just not, I've really ever gone in depth on. It's a completely different category within the real estate community. And you're making a bid to be first and only, essentially doing that, which is incredible. I mean, that's just from a design of a new business. That's what you want to do. You want to step into the void and create something that doesn't exist where there just is no competition yet. So I love that part of it. So obviously go to the website. We talked about who should go. Let's bring it down real practical in the last couple of minutes though. What is the one thing that's most important that you do for yourself to make sure that you're set to make those 3 world-class decisions a day?
Wonderful question. I think there's life hacks to joy and peace. And I think everyone needs to find them. And for me, it starts with meditation in the morning. I do transcendental meditation for 20 minutes. I journal for about 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And I journal about my kids. I journal about my wife. And I journal about just for me. And then I exercise between an hour and a half most days. My longer days are on the weekends. But I'm just a happier human being when I do all 3 of those. I have more clarity. I'm a happier human being when I get up earlier, which means, most people set their alarm in the morning. I set my alarm at night so that it forces me to go to bed. And then I don't have to set my alarm in the morning because I'm automatically up. And so it's just kind of, we can reorient ourselves on what we do and our priorities in our life. But if I hit those 3 things, I'm good. I'm just a better person. I'm a better father. I'm a better leader. I'm a better just everything about me has more clarity. And so it actually positions me to make those 3 world-class decisions a day. No matter who you are, you need to be the CEO of your life. If you want to be the CEO of your life, what that really means is I have clarity around the decisions that I'm making, how I'm spending my time, where I'm spending my money, how I'm spending my resources. Am I allowing myself to get distracted? Those are all decisions. The average person makes 35,000 decisions a day. It's decision fatigue is real, and then people want to distract themselves. So what you have to do is position yourself in a way that's going to position you to make the best decision that you can make, at least 3 of them, those world-class decisions. And for me, it starts with those 3 things.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah, I did something a little bit different a couple of years ago. I went in the other direction, which is I shortened my workday. And then I flipped a lot of the things that I used to do in the morning into the afternoon. So my workouts, I go basically once I get done here, it's lunch, workout, some of the journaling stuff that I used to do in the morning got flipped into the afternoon, but did the same thing for me. Like I get up in the morning and now it's just like, it's so much better. It's different. I wake up happier, more joy, more peace just by tweaking my schedule and making sure that I got those things in regularly too. It just works better for me in the afternoon. But yeah, like if you don't have stuff built in, you end up just you run your own energy tank dry. So
what people are doing is people are avoiding discomfort, right?
Yeah.
Instead of it's discomfort to exercise, but anytime you exercise, you feel better, right? But so people just need to stop avoiding the discomfort and lean into it. And then as you lean into more discomfort, it can become a habit that you're leaning into the discomfort. That could be whether you have to lead generate for hires, or have a tough conversation with your partner or your business partner, or whatever, or staying away from certain foods, whatever that looks like. So again, if there's advice for anybody kind of going out there, just what are you consciously aware that you're avoiding because it's discomforting? Most people have the discomfort of they wake up and they allow themselves to be distracted from the discomfort because that's the mind's biological response to do. So then you find yourself making coffee and checking Instagram, and the next thing you know, you're like, that's too long, I can't do this anymore, and you just distracted yourself from actually being discomfort. So attack the discomfort and lean into it.
Yeah, I love it. That's fantastic advice. I've been studying acceptance and commitment therapy, and that's a lot based around that.
Awesome.
The acceptance and really leaning into the discomfort, whether it's emotional, physical, whatever, it's all the same. And once you build the toolkit, then you can apply it to a lot of areas. Business is obviously the easiest one for all entrepreneurs. And the more you embrace the discomfort, it doesn't make it go away. What it does is it turns down the receptors of how much it affects you. So the discomfort can be exactly the same, right? You hold your breath for 2 minutes. It's not any different, but your receptors and how you react to the discomfort all of a sudden starts to diminish, and you realize this is not in the moment. It doesn't feel as bad as my mind made it out to be. It's really interesting stuff. So yeah, I've been on that journey, those very similar lessons through a different avenue. But I want to honor your time because you're at your vacation house and you've got some probably more skiing and hanging out with the kids to do. So let's wrap it up. Everybody should reach out to Greg. We talked about whether we should reach out to Adam and who that is. The person that should reach out to Greg is somebody who's curious about prospecting, wants to learn more about the systems that Greg uses, which has allowed him to make something like 1,000 cold calls in your career,
600.
something like that. Are we at
600?
600,000 ridiculous cold calls in your career. So if somebody is interested in prospecting, if somebody is interested in partnering up and making passive income off of their real estate career and doing more money, building long-term wealth, stock options, all that fun stuff. So Greg's number, 925-915-1978. Message him on Facebook, message him on Instagram. That's the best way to reach out to him. And then for me,
reach out to Matt. Get Micro Famous. Get that book he's written. It's a phenomenal piece of literature. Highly recommend it. I'm dyslexic and ADHD, and I have read the entire thing. I got to tell you, it is absolutely fantastic. So go to getmicrofamous.com, get that book immediately. And then, Adam, you are a legend amongst men. How can people reach out to you and get in your realm, man?
Yeah. What about the podcast?
Yeah.
You can go to Business Meets Spirituality is our podcast. And we kind of, Hallie and I my chief of staff, and we kind of jump into a lot of these conversations and stuff that, that you're talking about too, like that, from the mind. I think it's really interesting, people, it's like, you think about a cold shower, more people suffer in their minds before they're actually physical pain of the cold shower. I think that's kind of what you're referring to before when you're talking about like that discomfort. Anyways, I'm going off a tangent. So good Business Meets Spirituality. I just love, I can sit here and talk about this stuff all day long because it's so important for people to understand. Or you can go to adamhergenrother.com or livian.com. They all kind of trace back to all of our different handles and wherever we hang out.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, the personal development side. I mean, all business development is personal development because there's really you just your mind and your heart can't open up to the creativity it takes to like 10x a business unless you're working on the outside the business world, like coming from the spiritual world. I didn't know that until I got around really successful people and I saw how much they had to work on themselves so that they could keep growing their business. It's really wild. So for anyone, like if you haven't had that experience, just go get around super successful people and you'll figure that out real quick. They spend a lot of time on personal development because you can't grow without it. So with that being said, I know we missed Gene, wasn't able to be here at the wrap up. So go check out Gene Volpe, genevolpe.com. Look him up on Instagram. He's there as well, creating content. So gentlemen, this has been awesome. Greg? No, you're muted. And you're muted.
Shit. And there's that. Okay. Adam, I was actually researching you a little bit, and my good friend Bernice Ross, who does a lot with Inman, has very high words for you. So that is really something cool. She says, quote, he does some great stuff on agent teams. And then there's a lot more behind that, but I'm not going to bore all of us with that. So Adam, I have a very important question for you, and this is the biggest question of the show. What color of the bow on the show are you going to put on it? Because then Matt's going to probably put pink.
Yeah, just give us a favorite color, Adam.
Yeah, white.
White?
Yeah, you can blend in with
All right.
everything.
That works really well. My favorite color is black. So black and white bow. Wrap it up around it. Call it a present of an episode. Let's do it.
Gentlemen, this is the bow show. Bow. Thank you guys for watching to us there and give us a 5-star, not a 2 review on every single place you guys are watching or listening to us. Please tag Adam, Matt, or myself and anything that you guys like to hear in this episode. We love you to pieces. Until next time, peace out, ninjas. We're gone.